Hey, so I want to talk about the complicated case of Gloria Allred versus Kevin Hart. All right? Now, listen, I have said before, either here or on my other channel, that I don't call myself a feminist simply because I don't believe it benefits us as black women to really take on causes with other groups of women. I think that historically we kind of do better and are able to maintain the rights to our thoughts and ideas when we operate by ourselves. And a great example of that is a lot of the black women's social clubs and women's clubs that were formed immediately following the Civil War, to the point where our social clubs were making the issue of women having the right to vote a part of our agenda and a part of our national conversations 2 years before white women's social clubs officially made that a part of their national agenda. So we've always driven and directed the conversations surrounding change and rights for women in this country, and that's just that, okay? So, I'm sure over the years, if you've been around enough, you've heard of Gloria Allred, and she's worked herself to the point where you really only see her associated with certain high-profile cases. So whether it's O.J. Simpson, Jeffrey Epstein, Harvey Weinstein, or now Kevin Hart, or Bill Cosby. When you see her name, you know a high-profile case is coming and probably a big payday for someone, okay? Now, if you haven't heard, Kevin Hart is facing a $60 million lawsuit coming from the whole situation in 2017 with his sex tape. Now, in 2017, it was believed that he did not know that him and the young lady were being recorded. And so I'll say a friend or associate of his had to do some time in prison for extortion. And according to Kevin Hart, it really hurt him to be set up in that way by someone that he considered to be a friend. Well, now, 2 years later, the young lady involved is saying, well, no, he knew about the recording, and that's why she's suing him, and that's why Gloria Allred is involved. And I'm already seeing people having these conversations where they're saying, oh, she only goes after black men, or she's quote-unquote attacking him. Listen, here's the thing. Had he not been in a hotel room with another woman while his wife was 8 months pregnant, he wouldn't be in this situation, okay? So that's just the reality. If he didn't take his actions in his first marriage so lightly, to the point where he was laughing off the fact that he had lied to and cheated on his first wife, then maybe he could have made sure not to repeat those behaviors in his current marriage. Now listen, I understand that cheating on your spouse is not a reason to go to jail, and outside of a handful of states is not a reason for anyone to be sued. What I am saying, though, is that the bar is set so low for black men amongst us as black women that when they go into spaces with other races of people with that niggified behavior, it puts them in a position to have to deal with criminal charges or be sued. And so when we try to have these conversations and we talk about the ways that black women and black girls, and really also, looking at the research, right, black children are sexually abused and physically abused, and we see the rates of that abuse, and we see that in many cases that abuse is committed by black men. When we try to have those conversations and we talk about how damaging that is and how that behavior is not normal, but it's in fact criminal, when you laugh it off and you look at black victims of certain crimes and say, well, you're being too sensitive and you're just trying to bring a black man down, well, guess what? When you repeat those behaviors amongst other groups of women, you're not going to be protected by other races of people. And that's just the reality. To the point where they have no concern for the fact that this man is in the hospital dealing with recovering from a car accident where his back apparently was hurt pretty badly. And let me correct myself. I don't think he's in the hospital anymore. I think he's in a rehab facility. So apparently he was hurt very badly in that accident. And they don't care. They still slapped you with that $60 million lawsuit. And this is what people have to understand when it comes to Gloria Allred. And really any high-powered attorney, they don't take the case unless they know they can win it. Okay? They simply don't take the case. And see, this is how Gloria Allred is able to get some payouts from some of these black men who are millionaires. She's able to get the payout because she doesn't just come with one accuser. It's the same thing she did with Jeff Epstein. She didn't just come to represent one accuser. She's representing an army of accusers. Same thing she did with Bill Cosby. Okay? And on some level that happened with Usher, because it ended up coming out that, you know, there was the one lady who went public with her story, the lady that people laughed at because of her size. But come to find out, there were two other possible accusers, including another woman and a man. And so it's quite possible that as this story with Kevin Hart unfolds, we may find that there are other women who are going to say, well, something happened to me too. And the problem that Kevin Hart is going to have is that for so long, he made it a point to publicly say he doesn't feel a responsibility to speak about certain issues, right? And so you're going to have some people who look at what he's going through, including myself, and we're just going to be like, it's not my fight. It's not my fight. I've watched you downplay the ways that you have specifically targeted dark-skinned black women in your jokes. I don't like the way that you cheated on your first wife the last 2 years of your marriage to her. And even though on some level, listen, Aniko kind of got what was coming to her because she laughed off the fact that she was sleeping with Kevin Hart the last 2 years of his first marriage. Guess what? I still don't like the fact that you cheated on that woman while you were married to her, period. And I don't like the fact that you cheated on her while she was 8 months pregnant. I don't like the fact that when you were asked about the situation that happened in Charlottesville in 2017, when what was supposed to be a peaceful protest turned deadly, when a racist got in his car and decided to drive through a crowd of people, killing Heather Heyer, and your response basically was, you don't want to offend your white audience. And so what you basically said was, if I'm going to offend anyone, it's going to be other black people, because I don't want to offend the white conservatives that support me and Donald Trump. That's pretty much what you said. And now it's possible that Kevin Hart is about to be added to that list of over 200 men who've been held accountable during this Me Too era. Okay? But you niggas make it easy for yourselves to get caught up in this niggatry. Because when people try to point out how dysfunctional and abnormal your behavior is when it comes to women, you dismiss it. And see, you can get away with that amongst black people because unfortunately, a great number of black women and black men do not care about black women. They don't care about the ways that black women and black children are affected by that type of emotional, physical, and sexual abuse. Right? Then you repeat those behaviors elsewhere. And when you have to deal with the consequences of those actions, it's, oh no, I'm being targeted because I'm a black man. Well, even if people are targeting you because you're a black man, you're making it very easy for them to. And so therefore, Since you've never invested time in caring about the ways that you've hurt other people, when people see you go through shit, they're not going to say a word. Okay? And listen, these people like Gloria Allred are not slick. Because what they do is they just sit back and watch you dig a hole for yourself, deeper and deeper and deeper. And so over the years, you've offended black women. Then you've said certain things that have offended other groups of people. Then you offended a lot of black people in general when you basically said you don't feel a responsibility to say anything that would offend people who are Donald Trump supporters who also support you. Okay? So if you have to offend anyone, you'd rather it be black people. And now look at what you're going through. And how many times is it an excuse for these guys to say, well, the system of oppression and white supremacy has been doing this to black men. And it's like, well, okay, if you know that and you have no plans to fight it, why put yourself in the situation to be caught up? I keep telling y'all, all these people who get mad at us because they're like, well, how can you be divested or BWE when you have black male family members? If you really love your father, cousin, nephew, son, whoever that much, maybe it's time to start telling your father, cousin, nephew, son, whoever. Maybe your approach to interactions with women should be like Michael Pence. Vice President Mike Pence publicly said he does not meet with women alone unless his wife is with him. He doesn't want to be caught up in any of these stupid situations that you niggas keep getting into. Maybe you would tell them that, listen, there are consequences for bad behavior. There are consequences for this behavior. And I'm telling y'all, Gloria Allred doesn't get involved unless she thinks she can win. So it's going to be very interesting to see whether or not it's just one woman in this particular case. I'm not going to be surprised if it's not. I'll talk to y'all soon.